Welcome officially. Thank you for being part of this webinar. My name is Wildeboer and I'm here to give you some ways to create momentum in your world. To do that, I'm going to share a little bit of a story that is really representative for me of the message I want to give you for tonight. So, this goes back to 2008. So 2008, the intention was set. But what happened just before that is really part of what I need to share with you. So it was in October 2008 and it was a Friday. I remember very clearly it was a Friday. I was working in at Milton and I was starting work at 10 o'clock, my usual time to start work. And I arrived in at work as per normal. I went to my desk, I sat down, I started working, and that was all very usual. But by 11 o'clock, there was something very unusual that happened. I was escorted out the door because my position had been made redundant. Now, I know I'm not the only person that happens to, but I hadn't seen it coming. So I kind of was a little bit shocked about it. So straight in to job hunting. Okay, I'm going to qualify that. Desperate job hunting, because it was right at the end of the year and I knew I would have to line up some kind of work before Christmas, because we all know how quiet it gets over Christmas. So into desperate job hunting mode I went, and I couldn't find any job. Well, I found the jobs and I would go for the interviews, but I didn't get the job. So about 2 months of this, I was sitting down with a mate of mine and just having a conversation, and I was probably complaining a lot. Okay, I was complaining a lot about the fact that I couldn't find a job. I was late 30s, I was fully qualified, I'd never been unemployed. Surely I could get a job. And throughout that conversation, we started to have a look at what I really wanted, and maybe that was stopping me finding the ideal job. And this is when the intention was set. We discovered that what I really wanted was a job that fitted in with me. And so as soon as I articulated that desire, I suddenly found two things appeared. One was a part-time job literally down the road that only wanted me for 20 hours a week, which allowed me to start my other want, which was my business, and it allowed me to spend time on my business. So now I had these two things that fitted me. That was great. And so for the next 2 years, I was very busy with coaching, mastermind groups, networking, and working with clients. I had it all sorted. I had the structures in place. I had very articulated appointment times in my calendar laid out for years ahead. I had processes in place that needed to be followed. And I also had done a really good job at finding who my client was. I knew that client avatar like the back of my hand. That was in place. Well, that's all great, except that 5 years into my business, I noticed something had happened. Originally, I had clients that worked around me in my business. So they were mostly local and they would come in and see me in this space. But about 5 years into the business, I noticed that I'd managed to acquire some interstate clients. Now, what that meant was that I then had to juggle time zones and had to make myself available at slightly different times of the day, because here in Australia, of course, time zones, why would we all line up at the same time? 2 hours there, 1 hour elsewhere. And so I was starting to have to adjust. Now, I was okay with that because I loved having the clients, but I realized that I now didn't really have what my original desire was, which was something that fitted in with me. Now, fast forward to today, and this year, there's been this another leap. You know, I used to enjoy having a bit of a look back on how many clients I'd had over a year, and I noticed that they were a bit of a combination of local and interstate. But this year, I'm actually counting the number of different time zones that I interact with people, because I have now jumped from local and interstate to talking and working with clients globally. So what happened was, my original intention was to have a business, have a job that fitted in around me. If I had stuck with that desire, if I had stayed strong to all of the things that I put in place to ensure that that desire was fulfilled, there is no way that I would be where I am today. I had to allow that desire to move and mold and morph and change. And it meant I had to be flexible. Because now, all those structures that I put in place 8 years ago, really, not a lot of them are in place still. And that client avatar that I was absolutely knew for certain who my client was. The clients I have now are just another world. And so I've really had to change the desire. And what I've done is I've changed it from wanting to have something to do that fits around me to allowing myself to be available when others need me. And I want to share what I've done to ensure that my desires keep moving and molding and morphing in a way that feels comfortable and easy, and it's not tough going. So this is where I'd like to introduce you to this slide. Who are you? Now, how is that relevant to our principle of desire and what we're desiring and how that moves? Well, I had to look very closely at who I was. I love all the process and structure. But while my desire changed, I actually had to change a little bit and look at what I could use within me and who I am to allow my desire to change. And to do that, I use a profiling methodology called DEEP. Profiling systems tend to come with a category that we fit into. So DISC, you can be an influencer, but you can't be any of the others, or maybe you can be 2 or 3, but you can't be all 4. And I would find profiling systems a little restrictive because they would put me in a box, and I wouldn't always function in that box. I would function almost the polar opposite. And I was curious to know why that was happening. And this is when I started to look really into me and what I do. And I looked at the energy that I was using to function in all these different categories. And this is where DEEP comes in. DEEP is a methodology. I'm going to introduce all 4 categories, but they're not really categories. Well, they are, but every energy that I'm about to explain to you, every single one of you actually has within you. You will not fit into just 1 or 3, you will fit into all 4. So I want to just share them. The first one is discovery, and it's all about looking to expand. You know those times where you get a new idea and you just want to be able to share it with others, and you want to, sometimes you want to shout it from the rooftop. You've just got this need to discover more about that new idea, to let others discover more about it. So we all have this discovery energy that we can make use of. The next one that we actually have in this methodology is the word embracing. Now, this is always about willing to include. So embracing is often seen as willing to include others. So we want to be part of community. We want to be part of, actively part of our family members. We want to be actively part of associations or institutes or really invested in our teams at work, there's this really strong need to embrace that item that we're enthusiastic about. So we all have this embracing energy. And then there's the essentials. This is a very grounded energy. It is where we sense what's needed. Now, we could call it intuition, but it's not just intuition. It's this ability to just realize what's needed. Now, it might be for ourselves or it might be for others, but there's this really strong sense of just being able to sense what's needed now. And we all have this. Sometimes it's at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon when we just want to go home and go, I need to go home. I know that's a joke, but it is the energy of the essentials, because at that point on Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock and you're overworked, you just are sensing the need that you need to do something different. So we all have that energy. And then there's perceptive. When we just know where we need to go, we know the direction that we need to take. So all of these energies, as I'm sure you have been able to relate to, you can probably tune in and tune out to all of them at different times, depending on what time of day it is, what is going on in your life at the moment. So there's different energies that you will be stepping further into and others that you will be stepping away from. But what's great is that you actually have access to them all. And if we can access all of those energies and bring them all together, we start to work really, really effectively. So that's all great to understand the energy. And we can all feel that we could tune into, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. But I have seen, and I've experienced it myself, that each one of these profiles has a brick wall that appears. So when we've got this great new idea that we want to share, and the brick wall might be self-doubt. Well, when we're wanting to share that new idea, we need to find a way to get through that brick wall. So by using the energy of discovery, we can discover the way, whether it's around the brick wall or over the brick wall, or, well, maybe through the brick wall. But we can utilize that discovery energy. We can do the same with embracing. We can embrace an idea so well that we have so much support that it doesn't even look like there's a brick wall there. We can just move past it. Now the essential energy, how do they get past that brick wall when we're really strong in the essentials? Well, they stand back a bit and just see what's needed to be able to get past that brick wall. So they're a little bit more observant. And then the perceptive energy, well, they can just see that that brick wall does not go all the way to the side. They can just see which way round we need to get through that brick wall. So that's a brief explanation of not only energies that we can relate to, but how we can use each one of those energies to get past any brick walls that you have around creating momentum. I want to talk about collaboration. We often hear the word collaboration expressed in a team environment. We need to collaborate well with others. It's a bit like we need to play well with others. Well, that's great. And yes, that is certainly a really good thing to do when we're collaborating and we're working in a team. So yes, collaboration is important externally outside of ourselves, but another area of collaboration that just drives me is our collaboration between different parts of us internally. So I want you to think about this. If we have a collaboration between our head, our heart, and our gut, things seem to travel along quite nicely. If one of those areas is missing, then have a think about it. If you've got the head going and you know that your heart's in it, but you can't quite instinctively get drawn to something, then you can't quite follow through. So having those three things in alignment and connected and collaborating is really important when it comes to moving forward, doing something different, following your desires, morphing your desires. So I'm going to share from that story that I shared about the business and job hunting and all of that. I want to share with you the bit that I had to adjust. So my head was very much in the game, except that it just needed a little bit of a tweaking as my business grew. My heart was actually completely in the right place. The passion for this business has always been there. My gut, though, I instinctively was constantly drawn to that client avatar that I'd set up previously, and that was what I kept looking for. So over those 5 to 10 years, I've had to just adjust that a little. So I had to adjust the gut feel of who I wanted to be working with. And then there was another part of me that actually came into play, and it was very cool to watch it in action. And it's really the creative side of me. I would always claim to not be creative, but in the last 5 years, I've had to create programs, and I've done it with relative ease. So that was another component that started to collaborate. And now that all those 4 areas are collaborating together, my morphed desire from my original, which is now being available for when others need me, is now completely coming into play, because I have programs that support that capacity. I have structures and processes that support that capacity, and I have the flexibility. So I want to leave you with this final piece. Be open to new ways of seeing, new ways of being, because it will break the cycle of your past. I live that saying every day because I have some cycles that I've got to be aware of that I need to break. The desire was one of them. And we all have those desires, and they're great to have, but we need to ensure that they're keeping up with where we've evolved to. The final thing that I want to share is a little bit of an extension of this webinar. One of my favourite things to do in business is to give beyond myself. And I do that through a platform called B1G1. Some may be aware of B1G1, others not. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background to B1G1. It was originally created as an organisation, but after 10 years, it is now a movement. There are over 2,000 businesses that are business partners with B1G1, and they provide a platform for small projects around the world that I, as a business owner, can donate to. So I give, that's my social impact, is by giving through B1G1, and every cent that I give goes directly to the project that I choose. Now, I've been doing that for about 8 years, and I've created over 1.7 million impacts, I think I'm up to, which is fantastic. But it provides a challenge for me, because whenever I create something new, I want to find a new way to give even more. And I wanted to do that for this webinar. So this is what I found. So I went onto the B1G1 website and I looked at the projects that were available, and the heading that came up was life enhancement. And I went, how perfect. I'm wanting to enhance people's life. How? I can do that through B1G1 as well. And the particular project that I picked is providing vitamin supplements to kids in Kenya. And then I read a little further, And this particular project, these vitamins actually prevent blindness. I thought, that's just too good of a connection to pass up, because what I really want to do for you is I want to open your eyes to where your life could be further enhanced. So at the same time that we're doing that on this webinar, we get to do that to kids in Kenya as well. We get to open up their eyes because we're preventing the blindness. Now tonight, we've actually been able to give 1,400 days worth of vitamins to the kids. And that is thanks to you registering on the webinar. So I am so grateful that you have been part of that giving through B1G1. So my total aim here is to allow you to enhance your life by unlocking the power of energy that you have within you so that you can achieve more than you've ever imagined.